My ideal man. Defining the ideal man: humble, aspirational, logical, spiritual, creative, mindful, masterful, physically apt, engineering his body with time and age, attractive, wealthy in heart, honourable, experiences the outset of suffering. So, Shu, Sho, I, Shu, filled Shu, the god of atmosphere, as it relates with the ideal man. Women are undeniably sexually attractive to a topless man. This leaves little to the imagination and can easily be considered seductive or overtly sexual behaviour. Men with ripping muscles can reflect on a godly appearance and supposedly hypnotise women to feeling compelled to their mercy. The masculine figure characterises a good genes that creates the illusion of healthy offsprings. We generally tend to take one proxy for the overall characteristics and just run with it, regardless whether it's a false perception. Even though beauty is an assessment of fitness value when applied to a woman, there is no doubt why assessment of fitness, which is generally applied to men, needs to be purely physical. Hence why a topless guy would be more appealing, desirable to the many, compared to the beautiful female.
All right, then. So you're done?
Yeah.
All right, so my point is a little bit longer, takes a little bit more articulating. I would emphasize that the Sun Temple, true martial artist, has no fair representation in society. And there's no other fair way for him to express who he is. So the ideal man needs to have his shirt off and to have weapons in tow or in his hand that reflect his masculinity and martial arts philosophy, as well as other symbols that become widely recognized as symbols of sacred morality and dedication to God. I also believe in open carry, which would minimize the threat level in society, as other people would have guns where he would only have spears, swords, and knives. So first, the ideal man is focused. He knows his place in God's order and insists on it. He is sharp. He is loyal to God and willing to sacrifice everything for the true spirit of God. He is the top martial artist. He has mastered his mind, body, soul, and has the spirit with him. He is poor or in his place as Pharaoh. If he's poor in an unfair society, it leads up to his personal persecution, and he dies fighting for honor in an unreceptive society. He has a strong will spirit and a sacred moral system. He has natural positive evolutionary traits and a face that reflects a consistency with God's intense spirit versus a superficial face, a sneer, a smirk, a cartoon face, etc. Consider the difference between a decent man or a dream guy versus the ideal man that can only be the Pharaoh. Also consider that rich people are stigmatized by the general population, and rightfully so. How much more by the wise man or wise observer? Therefore, we can take the idea of elegant, Prince Charming, some corrupt prince trying to pass himself off as a good person, some rich guy with a nice, elegant house, and throw it in the trash. The ideal woman submits to the ideal man. So the ideal man must be the top martial artist, mind, body, and soul, with the spirit of righteousness which comes from God. Consider the difference between pro or true form versus conform, conforming to propaganda. The man must be a Sun Temple martial artist so that people can see him in the atmosphere. They need to see him for what he truly is. Now consider how clothes covers this up and how he can represent who he is. What if he wore a military uniform? This is more like a suit, it's more like elegance, and it represents conformity to the state and to mainstream Western culture in this context, in America, etc., in the West. Think about Prince Henry, who married Meghan Markle in some sort of a military uniform, because it resembles more of a tuxedo or a suit. This is the emphasis on elegance, and the top martial artist could not represent himself this way from the Sun Temple. Nor could he represent himself wearing a priest outfit, which means pry apart the mates of the A on behalf of the E's. The T is the plus. Also, it is the prize, the phonetics applied. The T is the plus. The priest represents their eyes on the prize. And it is a passive person's outfit, not an intense, righteous martial artist's outfit. Nor is the Asian gi that I usually wear. Okay, it represents a passive kind of Buddhist Shaolin philosophy and not an intense, pure Sun Temple, non-yin-yang philosophy. Think about the difference between military psychology versus a Sun Temple martial arts mentality, which is designed to refine the individual to serve the one true God, versus the humble and efficient worldly philosophy of the state. So spiritual versus worldly is another reason why he must have his shirt off and have some kind of white martial arts pants or yellow pants as he moves in a way that reflects his intense masculine spirituality. Consider the difference between the hummingbird and the hawk. The humility of the hummingbird is not taken away from by the intensity of its flapping its wings that just draws its attention. But its passive nature is revealed by the food that it eats, the flower, the nectar, the tree sap, the insects, the pollen, as opposed to the hawk, which is in its natural, graceful form and is superior to the hummingbird because of its enemies, the rat, the snake, and it is the great fisher animal. It has grace, intensity, and speed. Consider what it means to admire. Add more Spirit of God, not less. It's a play on words. The presence, which is felt. Pre-sense, you can sense them better with the shirt off. Pro-sense, from presence, you can sense them again better with the shirt off. Think about the patriarchy versus patriarch-a, paying homage to the order and to God through the order. Homemaker, home age, homage. Also consider, as you pick up on the state of existence, the state of being and the spirit of the Sun Temple martial artist with his shirt off, walking through the beach, walking through the streets. His senses help you refine your mind, body, soul, mental organization, and senses. Consider how passivity or passiveness and sensuality are related to drugs and hypnotic states and hypnotic theories. So to avoid the trance, the top martial artist needs to be in an intense masculine state that is best communicated with his shirt off, carrying phallic symbols and weapons that reflect his intense martial arts spiritual Sun Temple system of the one true God. His warrior nature is seen with his shirt off, and he has symbols reflecting wisdom, that become widely recognized and address potential lust and misunderstandings. In other words, the woman is going to see that he is spiritual first because of the way he carries himself, the weapons he has, and his spiritual system, similar to Bat's expression on the Narmer palette of shock and admiration versus lust. He's not a stripper in a strip club. He is a pure Sun Temple in the spirit of righteous indignation, man. And that is what people will see, and it will help them refine their existence. This is also a necessary response to the lack of recognition of the Sun Temple and lack of presence that it has, right? We don't see these people commonly in society. I'm the only one. And the lack of the distinction that is made between them and other religions and martial arts systems, which I assert are inferior. Also, this addresses female shallowness. Generational shallowness and basic heart-warming behavior versus generational righteousness in its true and intense form. Think about energy and presence. Think fast, the ability to think fast and coordination. Think about a professor and how it relates to him. Think about mental coordination and organization. Think about what's best for people in terms of mind, body, soul, spirit, sacred morality, and reaching their true potential. Think about the combination of these two stories, The Wizard of Oz and The Ugly Duckling. The Wizard of Oz is behind the scenes saying that nobody should emphasize their greatness, why everyone is subtly paying him homage, and he's using his minions to sabotage the Ugly Duckling so he can never become the Aswan governant, Neckin, true pharaoh, archetype of pharaoh, Haru man he is meant to be. With maturity, people will understand people better with their shirt off if they're in this true martial arts Sun Temple spirit. Consider who is comfortable with it, why, and who isn't comfortable with it and why. Consider the difference between understanding somebody when they have shades on versus and glasses versus no glasses. Think about how the clothes covers the light, and it's key to his Sun Temple philosophy for him to walk into the light, and for the sun to shine on him, and for him to convey this spirit to others with his shirt off. That's why Narmer on the Narmer palette had his shirt off. Society is too immature to handle the idea of top martial artist bloodlines merging together through love-based raw production or reproduction to create the ideal man pharaoh and his ideal offspring. They need to accept their place in the divine order, no higher and no lower, and to be right with God, and not to insist that this man becomes something else. They need to change their mentality and see him for the ideal man that he is. We have 4 potential responses to this. 1 is fear. 2 is agitation and jealousy. 3 is admiration because of this person's declaration of loyalty to God in this particular manner. And 4 is lust. And I have more than adequately addressed why number 3, the admiration for this person, which is beneficial to society, is the most likely thing to be expressed. And even if it wasn't, it will be a lack of understanding in the general population that can be addressed over time, and not that because this person isn't ideal. So go ahead and respond.
So comparing the rich man to the top martial artist, material versus spirit, modern life versus ancient. Women are less likely to fall in line with the spiritual concept. The rich man would be more appealing to help support them in the existing world. There are very few females who would be willing to accept the man of God as their equal partner. Society finds it difficult to support a person who is being persecuted without what they consider true foundation. For this reason, and this reason alone, the ideal man could be considered the top martial artist. He has the ability and characteristics of the godly masculine figure who women find appealing, and bearing in mind he is not topless, overtly displaying his physical beauty. He believes in the spirit. He oozes and reflects this characteristic. Therefore, he would be the ideal man who would have the demanding characteristics women aspire for.
Okay, real quickly, her argument and her response reflects her belief that a man should cover himself up so they do not lust, and that his spirit would naturally show. Well, I believe that the spirit shows more effectively when man is more in his natural state. The covering up of the genital area and the lower half of the body with some kind of white martial arts pants, capoeira pants, etc., more than adequately, I think, addresses women's lust, as we have people at the beach and so on and so forth. So what it boils down to is, do you believe that someone should have the right to dramatically express themselves, and would the effect that this has on society be beneficial or not? Can women overcome their desire to lust? I believe that we can teach them to overcome that, and part of how we do that is by displaying this man in his intense Sun martial arts spirit form, and not as some kind of commonly something that's seen commonly as a sex symbol. So in other words, he would be ideal to women if they weren't so cowardly, heartless, and shallow, void of a deep spiritual moral code, and so full of a lack of understanding of martial arts dedication and determination. Even though they are, I believe that he can transform them to be that. And in picking the suitable helpers over time, women will learn to be the right way, basically.